whole bunch of stuff happening. I can't even tell you, Alice, that just seconds ago I was just burning through a main wire story that we were doing. Huge breaking news that's going to... I've got a moment this is over. I'm jumping right back in. It's a big thing. It's way bigger than Maine. It's a national, if not international, story that we'll have done for tomorrow. It'll be exclusive to the main wire. You'll check that out. Tomorrow I'll be on sitting in for Grace Curley in the Grace Curley Show, 12 to 2. That's on the Howie Carr Network, including WRKO. Albie. And you can find me tomorrow again. We just did a huge food show, which is called Phantom Donuts Coffee, Phantom Coffee, which was, I think, our most controversial and maybe best food show yet, All You Can Eat podcast, which is based on the real life story of Trish. I can't believe this happened. I'll save that for that. You'll hear it in a bit. Tomorrow, I will be, after Grace, you'll find me at 4 Prime Meridian, Main Wire TV, where we'll talk about this amazing stuff that's going on. Today's my last day as a fat person. There's too much stuff. Like, I now have the
Tom
job.
glimpsed himself in a mirror this weekend. He had to go to our daughter's voice lesson and saw himself in a mirror at the studio.
So it's one of those long ballet mirror things, and I was walking past it. Mm-hmm. This is no bueno. And so, well, it's a good disguise, you know. I think, well, yeah. But anyway, so the main wire job is you have to be in better shape than I'm in. There's too much stuff happening too fast.
You're like out of breath from publishing news.
Featherston just had I am, dude. Featherston just had a hip replacement just for this job. It's amazing. There's a lot of stuff happening. It's very exciting. All right, so let's start right here. I have been, dropping my daughter off at Fauntleroy University, and anytime I put on the Boston talk station, I want to shoot myself in the head because he's so talentless. That in the morning, that I've been listening to the NPR station, usually the main NPR station, just so happens to be that's the one that comes out up there. I think they're right out of, they might be out of Portsmouth. Yeah. And so I've been getting the full experience of what somebody, if you're a progressive, this is what you get.
Well, and we've talked about this a bunch of times, but it is interesting that conservatives most conservatives I know kind of delight in consuming left-wing media. Like, they find it entertaining and interesting to see what liberals think like and talk like, and they do that generally by consuming real left-wing media. But most left-wing people I know, like, don't know anything that right-wing people think.
No.
They can't even, like, copy it effectively because they don't know what it's like to hear from a conservative person. But it's great. It's awesome. An awesome experience to listen to what they hear so that you get a sense of their worldview and their mindset, because it's definitely, I think it's really good to, like, I mean, know your enemy makes it seem like really serious, but I think it's important to think about, like, where other people are coming from in general.
Well, yeah, and I think that most people on the left, even though to a college-educated millennial will tell you that their father that they hate, that they've disappointed, watched Fox News, they've not really watched Fox News. They never heard Rush Limbaugh. They heard Time Magazine and Newsweek tell them what Rush Limbaugh was and how bad he was.
Occasionally, Sandra Fluke or like couple.
No. They never listened. They only listened to their progressive media friends tell them what he was. And so that's why you're right. He was an evil guy about Sandra Fluke, and he was mean to Michael J. Fox, and he got busted with opioids on a plane, and he's a bastard and fat and then not fat and then fat and not fat, and the same thing that even back in the 90s, like, I had people call me Newt Gingrich. Like, what are you, Newt Gingrich? Because I was stupid enough to, instead of trying to get laid at bars, to get into debates at bars. I remember people getting in my face and saying, what are you, Newt Gingrich? This guy thinks it's... They didn't know who Newt Gingrich was. They didn't know anything. All they knew is that Newsweek said that Newt Gingrich was the Grinch who stole Christmas. And that was it. But they only... That's it. So they only ever listened to themselves ever. And if they ever heard a bit of Sean Hannity, whatever, they're like, oh, see, Fox News? Yeah, it's biased. And, like, of course, Hannity is biased. He's not a news guy. I actually there was a symposium, there was a panel from Suffolk University when I was in Herald Radio, and these are all big professors, know-it-alls, and them saying the problem with Fox News is, Tom, they said to me, is that unlike CNN, people assume Fox News is news, and it's not. People like Bill O'Reilly are not news. Sean Hannity is not news. And I said, well, yeah, because they're not news. Fox is news and opinion. It's O'Reilly is opinion. Hannity is opinion. Back then, Ingram wasn't there, but she would have been a opinion. And the news with the Brett Baer panel is newsier. And then there are news, shows, but it's news and opinion. There are reporters, and then like Ed Henry back then was a Fox guy briefly, and Major Garrett was a Fox guy, and whoever. And there's like, and he said, yeah, but Tom, people can't separate the two. I said, well, that's not my fault, is it? I can separate the two. I can separate the two on my station. I can separate the two on MSNBC. I can separate the two on CNN. The problem was that CNN. One second. The problem was that it's too early for Sue O'Connell. Who, by the way, is the most freaking lecturing human being that has ever. I don't know what happened. Maybe she had a near-death experience, and somebody said, you need to lecture to everybody, as if you know something. So anyway, like, and you could always tell news versus opinion because you have to be an idiot. Yes, when Bernard Shaw was doing the news on CNN, that was the news. Peter Arnett, that was the news. Wolf Blitzer, that was the news. I understand it ain't perfect. And Crossfire was opinion. It's like, who needed help with this? Now the problem is that makes CNN more toxic now is the news guys are really opinion, but they pass themselves off as hard news.
Well, I mean, I would even argue that this whole thing that we got into in the 20th century of believing that there could be such a thing as news that's not coming from any one perspective is like this weird modernist view that's not only unprecedented in the history of human civilization, the idea that you can write just literally the things that happen without like at the view from nowhere. Like that it's not the perspective of somebody coming from somewhere, that it's not just like unprecedented and modernist and out of keeping with the way news has always been in this country, but it's also an impossibility and untrue. Like there's no such thing as covering news from zero perspective whatsoever.
Well, that's right.
There's nowhere.
That's right.
There's no like magic spot that you can observe the events from where you're not looking at it from a perspective.
Right. And they will tell you that we're the fact checkers. We're doing the fact check. Daniel Dale's a fact checker. And just because you're this oddly feminine, eunuch guy who is ticking off things that are not true that one person is saying, including hyperbole and exaggeration that obviously is not true, the fact that you then don't do that for everybody else in the story shows you what you need to know.
Right.
And also, you're refuting one side's positioning of facts. And yeah, it may be flawed, it may be disingenuous, and it may be wrong. But it's not something, I'm just checking the facts. Like, F you, dude. They're so full of it. What are you going to say about Sue O'Connell?
I was going to say that she's done that a lot on Twitter, done the, like, reporter knows on, reporter knows off game where she's like, look, I'm not a reporter. I am an opinion person.
Right.
So I'm allowed to have an opinion kind of stupid game that she plays. Like, the whole thing is a made-up distinction in modern times. And like, you have places like Fox News where clearly they're coming from a right-wing perspective, but they do have people that are, reporting the facts as they see them from as little bias as they can manage, and then like opinion people. But the idea that you have this distinction and that there are outlets that are like unbiased is it's such BS that I would rather throw away the whole concept of like news versus opinion because I think it's a silly distinction.
Absolutely it is. Because you'll hear this. Sue O'Connell is a good example because she's not good at either of them. And so like she's even worse because she's lecturing you as somebody who teaches journalism.
Yes, she gets paid by people to tell them things so that then they walk around having a journalism degree.
Right. So if you're saying over the weekend or over the past 2 weeks, ICE has murdered two
Americans.
Two Americans. You could say that. First of all, murder is not a word that you would use. Is not a fair word to use because it implies some sort of intent. But also, even just to say killed, to say that ICE killed a nurse and a poet, that can't be it. Because you can't say that unless you feel like that's true enough and that should do enough to bring emotions to your side, which is what they do, which is why these people are poison. And I realized at some point, it was this morning or yesterday morning, listening to all this NPR, I realized that it's totally all wall-to-wall evil with nice voices and vocal burn for some of the stories. And friendly,
85 producers per show.
Yeah, and a friendly delivery and lounge jazz that plays. Even the commercials are in our ever-infringing world, in a world where nature is ever infringing as the West develops and enjoys privileges that history has never known in other generations. We're finding more and more people around the world having to cope with the lack of first world conveniences and everything. And that's like that's a story that just makes you feel okay. And the next one's about total climate change. And the next one's about how black women, like 1 out of every 1.5 die when they go to visit the doctor. And historic reasons for this. And it's all, they're doing it with a smile, and they're doing it with their happy jazz and their Nat Sounds and the Brooks and this. But it's all catastrophism. It's all panic time. It's all, this is why this frigging, the NPR is so bad for people. Because you're thinking it's good. You're thinking, I just heard about Trump as a Nazi. This is Kristallnacht. This is Auschwitz. This is exactly, Stephen Miller is Himmler. It's exactly the same ascension. Everything is the same. What's happening in the streets of Minnesota is exactly what not only Stalin did, but mostly what Hitler did too. But it's all of that. And now it's time for Wait, Don't Tell Me. Hey, Bill. Hey, Ron. And it's our big voice over here. Hey, guys. And it's like everything, see? This is just the world, guys. This is just the world. Now we're doing Wait, Don't Tell Me, and we're going to let you feel smart again. We're going to have really low-level trivia stuff and make you feel smart again. And it's so dangerous. There's no getting out of the trap either. So this is, I've got a couple of examples of this. The New Yorker Radio Hour is in the New Yorker, the magazine. Mm-hmm. I could go on and on about this, but I'm just going to play the intro of the New Yorker Radio Hour. This plays all around the country. This is an NPR show, which once again has been receiving your tax dollars.
Welcome to the New Yorker Radio Hour. I'm David Remnick. It was just over a week ago that Donald Trump announced to the world this: sometimes you need a dictator. He's made a dictator joke before, but this was no joke. It was a simple statement of how Trump views democracy and the rule of law as hindrances to asserting his own will over the nation and the world. Trump made the dictator remark at the World Economic...
By the way, you hear that music, right? Mm-hmm. This is some pretty serious stuff, lady. Okay, just so you know. If you brought your pills with you, now it's time to take more.
Economic Forum in Davos, as he was threatening to seize Greenland from Denmark and end the post-war order. But back home, we were looking at quite another side of the same coin. An American city, Minneapolis, seemingly in a state of siege.
Alice, you know what a state of siege is? I think the Romans used
that's like when, they're besieging Constantinople and like catapulting stuff over the city walls and stuff and cutting off the water supply and things like that.
Or more recently, it was it Leningrad or Stalingrad? One of the two. In World War II, was it season from Leningrad, season Stalingrad? One of the two. We'll say it's Leningrad. Horrible siege. The Nazis have the whole place circled. You can't get any supplies in at all. They have no food inside. They're eating each other. They're getting shelled to death. It's a horrible thing. It is a serious.
It's usually part of a war.
It's part of a
siege, I
war.
would say.
It's an attrition, a cruel attrition strategy. So the people inside are freaking desperate, and the cinch gets tighter and tighter and tighter.
Was threatening to seize Greenland from Denmark and end the post-war order. But back home, we were looking at quite another side of the same coin. An American city, Minneapolis, seemingly in a state of siege. Federal agents were going door to door, demanding identification from people on the street. And
Daniel Dale, would you like to address any of these points?
Also, the way he phrases it, I think he's trying to be cute, where he's saying they're going door to door, comma, they're demanding identification from people on the streets. But the way he phrases it makes it sound like they're going door to door, demanding identification.
Well, right.
Which they're not doing.
He's saying brown shirts are looking for Jews in every door. And like running upstairs and threatening people and running into attics. They're not going door to door at all. They're
They're getting warrants for specific people who have valid deportation orders that are not that Walz and Fry governments are not cooperating with them to hand over from their their police departments and jails and stuff.
Exactly. And yes, they're asking for ID for some of these people who are required to show ID. Now, for Americans, if they ask for ID, a lot of Americans, you don't have to show them ID. Depends on what's going on and what the situation is. But, of course, these guys want to know who people are around them, especially since one of the odd things about the Nazis is as they went door to door, they had very few groups of organized attackers who were tracking them and harassing them. And had the Nazis had people harassing them in the street, they would have handled the problem quickly.
Yes.
A lot of more dead poets and nurses.
If you followed around the Nazis, the SS, with blowing whistles everywhere they went, I think you'd have a bigger problem on your hands.
Yes.
Than most of the people in Minneapolis do right now.
Yes. Within 10 seconds, the sound of whistles would not be heard anymore.
Detaining those who got in their way. Renee Good.
Detaining those who got in their way. Well, if you're impeding law enforcement and you won't get the F out of the way, or you try to run them over, or you try to stop them or save a woman, you're not allowed to do that. You're just simply not allowed to do that. If you go right now to any traffic stop...
Wait, I'm not allowed to kick out the taillights on police cars because I don't like who they're arresting?
No, oddly enough, you're not allowed to. Not allowed to get involved. You watch... If the statey's pulling somebody over and you even pull your car over and then get out and start walking towards the statey doing his job, you see what happens. They don't see the humor in it. But anyway, we're out to get their positioning of Renee Good.
Seemingly in a state of siege. Federal agents were going door to door, demanding identification from people on the street and detaining those who got in their way. Renee Good, a poet, had already been killed and others had been wounded.
Sorry, what?
By the way, I know I'm like a broken record on this, but poet is not a career or an identity.
Poet is the lack of career.
You can't go around saying,
but wait
this person's a poet.
But
like,
Alice,
it's so embarrassing. Don't do that. You can't do that.
But what is the implication of that?
That it's like a peaceful person?
That certainly is. But what's the other implication? In other words, if they say Renee Good, a street mime, was killed, what are you assuming that was happening?
That they were doing their street miming there.
So
well, yeah, it's like
she's doing Ode and a Grecian urn at the side of the street.
Border Patrol shot an ICU nurse. Like what? But yeah, like, but even in general, like, you're not supposed to go around saying you're a poet. Like, best case, you go around saying you're, like, if somebody's like, oh, what do? You don't go, I'm a poet. It's like a silly thing to say.
She was more a domestic agitator and police impeder and criminal, really, than anything else.
But, like, if you're a person who's had, like, one piece of poetry published somewhere, it doesn't make you a poet. like, best case, if you are a poet, you should probably, when people ask you what you do, say that you're a writer, and then if they ask for more details, clarify that you write poetry.
And also don't say either of those at all. If you have to explain to people who you are at all, just don't. But that is like saying, if I get killed by cops, that Tom Shattuck was a songwriter. Yeah, I mean, in the 90s, I
write some songs.
Yeah, I did. I mean, there were other things I was, but but the idea is that yeah, she was simply reading her prose, and they went up and shot her.
That did nothing to moderate their tactics. Then Alex Preddy, a nurse.
They still kept not wanting to get hit by cars. Alex Preddy, a nurse. What's going to happen to the nurse, do you think? I assume he was doing nursing. Or if he wasn't, they're going to tell us that Alex Preddy and Renee Good were part of this resistance patrol that were harassing cops, getting in their way. Alex Preddy, who, by the way, was in a wrestling match now at least twice in 2 weeks, which we don't also hear.
Was shot and killed in a hail of bullets after he came to the aid of a protester.
After That's it.
He came to the aid of a protester.
By the way, another person, the protester, who wasn't protesting, who was in the business of cops, another person who found themselves physically tangled with cops, came to the aid of a protester.
The administration did what, frankly, a dictatorship does. They said that Preddy...
He doesn't like to be frank here, but he's going to have to be frank.
...had been carrying a licensed firearm that he never brandished, was in fact a terrorist, an assassin, and they justified the killing.
Now, the administration did do that.
And we said we didn't like it at the time because it was also stupid and silly.
Exactly. So there, you can tell the whole story. But with these guys, we don't tell any of the story.
We're going to talk about Minneapolis today and what it bodes for this country. Emily Witt and Ruby Kramer have been reporting from the city.
You want to hear Emily a little bit?
Will
Sure.
the ICE strategies change from LA to Chicago to what we're seeing now in Minneapolis?
One, listen to the vocal fry. Two, listen to the difference between the ICE strategies in Minneapolis and LA.
Well, the biggest difference is just the number of agents relative to the size of the population. So in LA, I don't know exactly how many people were deployed there, but LA is an enormous city, and they were spread out all across LA County, which is, it takes hours to cross from one side to the other. So it wasn't the same sense of really, agents everywhere in the very heart of the densest part of the metropolis.
And what was the difference in atmosphere, if any?
The protests in Los Angeles were really concentrated around downtown LA, and the confrontations there were between local law enforcement and demonstrators. And so even though there were people...
Why don't we stop there and put a pin in it, NPR?
Right.
Well, right. Well, where was local law enforcement in Minneapolis?
Yeah, where were they? And not only that,
they were told to stand down by the roid-raged, freaking muscle-head, tight shirt police chief, weird guy in a dog collar, because his buddy, Jacob Fry, wants everybody to stand down, and so does Tim Walz. They didn't want local law enforcement involved, so now you had federal agents who were dressed as troops getting in fights with the locals because they didn't have the protection of the local cops.
well, and also...
At the same time, by the way, the locals who are fighting them are getting intel and guidance from city and state government.
Right. So that's definitely one thing that's true in all these signal chats that have leaked. It's clear that they were getting leaked information from government officials of some kind at some level. So that's one thing. But also another piece of it is that these were not protests. These aren't people gathering to protest holding signs or something. These are people who are gathering and following federal law enforcement specifically to disrupt federal law enforcement. So they're not protests in any traditional sense of protest. This is, people who are going out of their way to fight with federal law enforcement, which... I don't know. Everyone's all just well, did Alex Preddy deserve to get shot? I don't know if he deserved to get shot per se. Deserve is a weird word for that. But I do know that people who find the time to get in physical altercations with law enforcement multiple times a month, probably have a higher risk of serious injury or death than people who don't do that.
Yes. And so the key is...
And he wasn't protesting. What he was doing had nothing to do with protesting. And nobody should say that word.
He was stopping them from doing their jobs. Exactly. Which people online are still telling me that's called protests. No. I understand the left has told their people that anything you do that's breaking the law in something that you believe, and there's a bunch of you're allowed to do, and that's called protest. It's not. But this is the lies you get when you have the George Floyd lie, and all you listen to is NPR who told you that was peaceful protest as well. You can do anything in the name of something like racism, and it's just protest.
Yeah, I mean, so we live in a small town. Our police doesn't have that much to do, but they do a lot of speed trapping, sitting around at various points on Main Street waiting for people to drive by with
way to dock someone else.
A broken taillight or whatever. Not that I know anybody who would ever have a broken taillight.
No.
But can you imagine the response if anywhere they went, I showed up, tried to box them in with my car, and stood outside the car yelling at them and filming them? While they're trying to just do their job and sometimes pull people over for something. It's protest. It's freedom of speech. I'm allowed to film the cops. But if I did that every day and I went and sought out the new places where they went and everything else, I guarantee you that there would be less than optimal meetings with the police in our town.
And if you kept trying to push him away from a car he was trying to pull over, or somebody was trying to talk to you, he would give you warning saying, stop, you're going to have to stop this, or I'm going to have to tase you. You're going to have to stop this, or I'm going to have to use, I'm absolutely to restrain you. You're going to have to stop this, or I'm going to have to do something. You're going to have to stop this. And if you kept going and kept going and kept going, he would probably try to get you to the ground, bang, and then turn you over and cuff you, or spray you, or mace you, and then turn you over and cuff you. And the moment he maces you is when those cameras come on, and mother of five, maced by cops and disappeared. American citizen.
For protesting.
There you go. NPR has all it needs. Off to the races.
I know, but it's insane. And there's a new one that they're trying to make happen where, a lady has a dash cam and ICE, cuts off her car and boxes her in and arrests her. And they're saying, she was just driving. Yeah, I mean, she's just driving at the start of this video. What was she doing right before that? They never start the video where it counts. But...
Which is why you really need cops around protecting the ICE people. Because now the point is that we can't expect now people to not be wrestling with federal law enforcement. That's not a given. You're allowed to. That's protesting. You're allowed to wrestle with them on the ground. I'm
just coming to someone's aid.
As long as you have a whistle with you and you're dressed like a paramilitary person, or you have
an illegal observer.
Exactly. As long as you're allowed to wrestle with him. So now law enforcement, the new key has to be to make sure nobody can get close enough to wrestle, because once they're wrestling, they've now got the safety shield of the entire left and the media protecting them. Anything can happen, and when you're wrestling, it's like cops have no chance. Just there's no chance. This is another podcast called, I'll just play a little bit of this, called This Is Beautiful, and this is my favorite thing about the left. This is why they suck. And by the way, yes, we need to be nuked. This is called On the Media. This is, if you listen to this whole thing, don't listen to the whole thing, guys. But you will become enraged because it's attitudinal as well. They think, oh, but we caught them red-handed. More freaking lounge jazz. Can you imagine how comfortable these freaking people are? Oh, please. Okay. I'm not thinking anything violent. I don't want anybody to nuke the Eastern Seaboard at all. Nobody.
Kill you. I've never quite experienced, I guess I would call it communism up close.
In Minneapolis, right-wing content creators agitate for tape to change the narrative after the murder of
Are we at a 50s slam poetry daddy-o in the Greenwich Village or something?
Alex Pretty by federal agents.
Let me rewind that because I stepped on her.
I've never quite experienced, I guess I would call it communism up close.
In Minneapolis, right-wing content creators agitate for tape to change the narrative after the murder of Alex Pretty by federal agents. From WNYC in New York.
This is a news podcast. saying
By the way,
murder.
aren't you like supposed to say allegedly when you say that somebody's murdered somebody or
yeah,
something?
and by the way, murder? Murder? The jury finds out if something's a murder. A murder? Yep, no, that's it. It's a murder with our 50s Daddy-O Jazz. Freaking amazing.
NYC in New York, I'm Brooke Gladstone.
And I'm Micah Loewinger. Also on this week's show, how the political right want us to ignore the inherent Americanness of the protests.
And by the way, their first bitch there was they're trying to use video to create a narrative. Well, the whole narrative of the murder is based on your video.
Right.
What the right starting to use, guys. In other words, listeners to this who just got out of hot Pilates class. Know that the video that you saw on Blue Sky is good. There's other videos, don't watch those.
I don't think it's unfair to question whether they would be calling Patrick Henry or Sam Adams domestic terrorists if they had been alive at the time.
Plus, in an era of lightning fast news and
By
information...
the way, they kind of were.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yes. The difference being both NPR all day and the Sunday shows went to this today, this bringing Ken Burns on, saying this is exactly like the Boston Massacre when the British descended upon. The difference, I think, is that the colonists didn't use legislation to create the rules about tea taxes and other things. That's the problem. In this situation, in Minnesota, Minnesotans voted for the politicians who voted for these immigration laws that are now being executed by the feds.
Right.
Like, these are the laws you asked for from the people you elected. They're here now. This is what you wanted. And now you're attacking the troops trying to execute them.
We
We
should probably go to the chat and
we're already there?
and then do the Patreon show because we have to leave time for the Patreon show.
Okay. Alice has got to go. Okay. What do I do usually?
You usually go to the chat.
Okay.
But yeah, like I think it's good insight into the way these people think because, and in the Patreon side, we'll do a little more because I want to talk about the tattoo parlor too. But Tom tweeted out they're doing like this parade of 1,000 bikers, by which they mean cyclists on like literal bicycles who are, showing their power in the streets of Minneapolis on their bicycles.
This is what we didn't play last week from Steve, by the way.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack. Another non sequitur here. I made arrangements this morning to provide lunch for a large account of mine in southern New Hampshire, about 30 people, and using a restaurant from Exeter, New Hampshire.
Ooh.
I'm on the phone with the guy, giving him my credit card information, and we get to the end, and he goes, "Okay, that's $440, sir, and we're going to add a 10% gratuity on top of that." And I said, "What? A 10%?" I said, "I'm picking this thing up. I mean, it's not even if it was being delivered, I wouldn't pay 10%. What is this?" And he says in a very sinister voice, "It's not mandatory, sir."
Ah!
And I go, "Okay, how about $20? $20 is fine, sir."
Oh.
And we very politely hang up, and I'm proud of myself, man. I made a stand because this restaurant tipping thing, especially for takeout, is completely out of control. I made a stand for myself and for every listener of the Burn Barrel and every person in America. Okay? So you're welcome. By the way, I'm not touching that food because I'm sure this guy's going to try and kill me. Thank you.
Yeah. It goes without saying, I think.
Hopefully it just kills all the people at your account so that you don't have to.
I think he wants the people in the account to live. I think, Alice. I might be wrong. I'm not sure. Thank you, though.
Well, I'm glad you did that, Steve, because I never know whether I'm supposed to tip on takeout, and I kind of assume I am.
No issue with the Ed Markey comments because, I mean, the man is adult.
Yeah,
it's
he
just
is.
more proof. So I'm glad he said it so people can hear it.
It's the Minute Women. Minute Women.
I do have a problem with, and Tom, you'll understand this, is the term Minuteman and Minute Women used in a different context. And we all know there are many, many millions of Minutemen, and there is no such thing as a Minute Woman.
No kidding.
I mean, much like baby pigeons.
Yeah.
I know they exist, but I've never seen one in the wild.
Yeah, women make everything difficult. Even that mystical thing, the mystical thing that doesn't exist. I do not believe that women actually have orgasms. I just Alice can attest.
Yeah.
How sad is it that Seth Moulton is doing all the seemingly right things from the Democrat playbook? He is a U.S. congressman for Northern Massachusetts. He is looking to become the next senator for Massachusetts.
Yep.
So he's out in Minneapolis. He's saying all the right Democrat things. He's talking about horror stories of people being stripped down to their underwear and thrown out into the Minnesota cold. You would think it's a shoo-in, and yet he's still going to lose to that village idiot, Ed Markey.
He is.
I don't want the cameras on Ed Markey when that Crypt Keeper wins again. I want the cameras on the Moulton household because, I mean, man, that must be so depressing. Seth is seemingly a smart guy.
Yeah.
I respect his background. He's obviously accomplished a lot of things, but to think that's who you're going to lose to, oof, maybe just build up that war chest and walk away.
Yeah, it's going to be a terrible, terrible loss. But he's so unlikable, and the scowl he has, the dude just doesn't have it. He is nothing. He's got no skill. He's made all the wrong moves. I just will say this. He met us when we were with the Boston Herald. I've said this before. We went in there with me and 2 other people. And his whole staff was made to stand. He doesn't give them chairs. They have to stand around like the guy who's got at the desk and stuff because Seth is a hardo. Okay. Whatever.
Maybe
man.
there's a reason they all sold him out and quit on him when he said that he didn't think boys should play girls' sports.
Yeah, and then he went back on it. Great.
So how generic was that Bruce Springsteen song about everything going on in Minneapolis? It was just like totally ridiculous. He was all like, "In Minneapolis, there's something happening."
Nicely done.
Alex Pretty was madness. So was Ben Stiller in that movie with Robert De Niro.
Not bad.
And that good lady, she's lesbian, but not like the ones in those skin clicks.
Not bad.
In the dawn's early light,
Oh.
citizens stood for justice. Their voices were ringing through the night.
Just don't wrestle the cops, the law enforcement. Nobody has to get guitars. Nobody has to talk about being a nurse or being a poet, which nobody is in the story. You don't have to do any of this stuff. Don't have funerals. Don't have to feel bad. You don't have to doctor anybody's picture up to make them look more handsome than they are. Don't have to do any of this. Just don't wrestle the cops. I don't understand. Why is it that hard? Half of us in the country just don't wrestle the cops. Look, almost
I think
ever.
more than half.
It's freaking amazing. Amazing.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Like I said, we're going to do another 15 minutes or so over just for the Patreon people on the Patreon side. So if you want to join for that, you can go to patreon.com/burnbarrel and sign up there. Of course, if you like listening for free, because who doesn't like free, you can listen with ads. You can find all places to listen at burnbarrelpodcast.com, as well as that's where you can leave those chat messages. We have links to Spotify, to YouTube, everything like that. See you later.
C'est la vie.